Welcome to Podcast for Profit, the show where podcasters become CEOs. I'm your host, Tony Porter, and every week I'm giving you the strategy, systems, and game you need to grow your audience, monetize your message, and build a seven-figure podcast business. No fluff, no cap, just real results. Let's get into it.
Let's be honest. You can have the status, the followers, the money, the platform, the respect, and still be losing a battle that nobody sees. So here's the pain nobody is saying. See, high-performing men are drowning in silence. See, we teach men how to grind, but not how to process pressure. We teach men how to win, but not how to deal with the weight that comes along with it. We tell men, man up, but never show them how to open up. And if you're building a business, running a podcast, providing for your family, real talk, that pressure compounds. See, most people like you and me think that the problem is monetization. We think that the problem is lead generation. We think that the problem is branding. Here's the interruption. Here's what's taking place. Here is why this is particularly not true. Sometimes the real problem is internal. And today we're having that conversation nobody wants to have. Because if you can't manage your mental health, you can't manage your message. And if you can't manage your message, you'll never turn conversations into currency. Hey, yo, what's good, people? Welcome back to the Podcast for Profits, the show where we stop trading time for likes and start turning conversations into currency. I'm your host, Mr. Tony Porter, your podcast monetization strategist and business coach. Today, it's going to be a little different, man. We are diving into something that is particularly alarming. And if you paid attention to what's going on in the world, the silent pressure killing high-performing men is at an all-time high. So I know you're wondering, well, what do you mean by that? Let me say this. This is the reason why success and strength and status don't shield men from their mental health battles. Yeah, we're going to talk about that conversation nobody wants to talk about. Like, we're going to get deep into that. And the reason why we're going to get deep into that is at the time of recording this episode, the city of Louisville mourns a fallen hero, 25-year-old young fellow who had a lot to live for. He had a lot to live for. He was dealing with something behind the closed doors that nobody knew about. At the tender age of 25, he's gone. I'm not going to go into the speculation of what happened. Just know this young fella was not in the streets. He was a professional athlete. He literally opened a lot of young folk eyes in the city. So, graduate of Trinity High School, Purdue Boilermaker, first team All-American, drafted by the, Arizona Cardinals, played for the Atlanta Falcons, and recently played for the Minnesota Vikings. So how do you take what's happened and turn a tragic incident into a positive push that opens these doors for people to have these conversations? And that's what we're going to do today. We're opening these doors because we need to, especially as men. Men, we don't discuss things like this, and we need to. So before we dive any deeper, this is what we have to do. We have to talk about something. If you're a coach, a consultant, and a service provider who's tired of podcasting into the void and ready to start generating real clients and real revenue, to pay attention. Theories. We're talking strategies. We're not talking theories. These are some, actual frameworks that have been used by myself and by others to help clients turn their podcast into a business. That's what we're going to cover today. We're covering why high-performing men feel alone, even when they look successful. You have to understand that the hidden costs always bring the strongest ones. So, it's a little tough to try to do this episode, but we have to talk about it. And we need to also talk about how, mental clarity directly impacts everything that we do, whether it's your message, whether it's your monetization. It really does affect stuff that we do. So we have to get deep into that. And I want you to understand this. Please do not be proud and try to not deal with this. Listen, I'm one who deals with mental health every single day. I see my therapist every other week. All right. tragedy has hit me hard. Father murdered 3 years ago. And every time you feel like you get over the hump, something else happens. A couple of weeks ago, little cousin set up, shot, killed in his car with his seatbelt on. So he didn't even know it was coming. He wasn't in the streets like that. So yeah, these are the type of things that hit you as a family member. And I know my family is struggling right now, but these are the type of things that we need to discuss. So I feel like it's time for us to discuss it. All right, but we need to put it into a format that we're not just focusing on the mental health aspect. We're talking about in your business, if you're an athlete, in your play. We put pressure on ourselves to be successful, but nobody tells us really how to deal with it. So let's get into it, because this episode matters right now, because we're living in a culture that celebrates output but ignores emotional capacity. And you can't build a profitable brand if your internal foundation is cracked. And that's just straight game. That's just what we got to give to you. We can't sugarcoat this particular situation, because we have to be able to talk. A lot of people don't want to talk. We got to start talking. You got to start reaching out. You got to. And if you don't want to reach out, I tell you what, if you don't want to reach out, it's so important that you seek help and not look for a way out like this. All right. So, like I said, as painful as it is to do, because we're talking about someone who a lot of kids, a lot of teenagers in the city of Louisville, Kentucky, looked up to the young guy. A lot of people, what changed the mindset of some of these kids is they never really knew that they had athletes who came out of the city. And there's a ton that played professional ball that came out of the city of Louisville. There's a ton. So you have to give credit. But the younger generation has no recollection, because they don't tend to want to research it. With that being said, let's get into this, man. Let's talk about it. And man, listen, if you know someone, help them out, man. Talk to them. Look for the signs. All right. I have to thank my support group, because some give me tough love and some just want to listen. And the best way for me to get things out is when I vent. And so let's get into this, man. Enough about me. Let's talk about business. Let's talk about what it takes and how we deal with the mental aspect inside of our business. So one of the things we need to talk about is called the performance trap. You need to have your listen locked in statement, man. If you're the one everybody depends on, if you're the one giving the advice, if you're the one motivating others, but you don't have anyone pouring this back into you, I see you. All right. I definitely see you, because when I first started podcasting, I felt like I had to show up strong every single episode. Louisville raised me with that grit. Louisville raised me. But to be honest, my energy, I had that block mentality. I had that hustler's mentality. I had that block energy because I just wanted to grind, man. And that's the way I thought. But let's be honest, there were 2 nights that I questioned everything, especially when it came to my podcast, because downloads wasn't transitioning into dollars and content wasn't going out. Leads wasn't coming in. And I couldn't say that out loud. So why? I couldn't say it. Why? Because I position myself as a strategist who coaches the coach, who coaches me, who helps me get to that point, man. That's the number one question. And so the pressure was building. And a lot of men in sports, a lot of men in business, a lot of entrepreneurs, they feel that way. We internalize a lot of stuff. We have this thing that we call the teach one thing rule. And you have to be able to understand that that rule itself kind of puts you in a pickle. And so one of the things that I had to do, and this is an actual actionable step for you, it's an actionable insight. I had to separate performance from identity, man. Your results are not your worth. Stop tying your emotional stability to your metrics. Downloads are down, that's data. Revenue low, that's strategy. Engagement slow, that's positioning. It is not your value as a man. All right? So when you detach the identity from performance, you create space, you think clearly. And clear thinking builds profitable strategies. So inside the Podcasters Academy, we talk about this. And this is just one of those things that we talk about constantly. The academy came from my friends because they was like, Dog, you need to put a space for podcasters and creators and coaches. And by having this space, you kind of separate the ego from execution. So if you've never had a space where you could talk business without pretending everything is perfect, that's what we're building over here at the Podcasters Academy. But that's just the first layer. The second pressure is even heavier. And you have to understand, man, These pressures take a lot for people to really soak in and take in. All right. So the strong one syndrome is things we need to talk about. And this is the second one. This is the second one that we really need to, tap into. And so you ever notice how the strong one never gets asked if they're okay? That's the persona that we put out there because everybody assumes that you are. We get asked these questions and some of us will say, well, I'm good. You have to stop saying you're good, man, because a lot of times you're not. So you got to think about this. We have this mentality as men, no matter where you from, no matter what creed you are, no matter what color you are, we have this mentality. And for me, growing up in Louisville, strength wasn't an option. Man, you either walk that line, stay strong, or hey, you got beat up, bullied, and nowadays you get, unalived. You handled it. You figured it out. You didn't complain. See, the mentality built resilience, but it also builds suppression. When I started coaching clients, I noticed something very, very interesting. See, the most talented podcasters, the smartest entrepreneurs, the ones with real skill were also the ones quietly overwhelmed because they felt responsible for everything: family, clients, income, image. They didn't feel safe exposing doubt. One thing that you have to do is you have to build pressure, or should I say you have to build a pressure release system, not motivation, not hype, a system. That might be get you a mentor, do like I do, get you a therapist, join a peer mastermind, get you a weekly CEO reflection block. That means you block out the time to reflect on things that you're doing. And then you gather with a whole lot of people, i.e. in the Podcasters Academy, you can gather in her mind and be that support system that everybody wants and needs in today's game. You need somewhere to just offload, man, because the more you let this build up, the worse it gets. Because it's like having rusted pipes. When you start suppressing pressure, eventually the leaks will come. And when it leaks, it shows up in your content. You start doing inconsistent posting. You get creative block. You're short-tempered. You're burnt out. You got to think of it like this. Sometimes you think it's a marketing problem when it's not. It's emotional backlog. When it comes to your clients, getting clarity mentally, the messaging sharpens. And that's what you got to have. When messaging sharpens, conversions increase. All right. And that's what you got to do. You got to have those talks, man. You got to have have that trust strategy, and you got to have that trust CTA. Again, everything that I'm discussing now can and will be discussed in the Podcasters Academy. We don't talk funnels all the time. We don't talk all the time about episodes. We talk founder mindset, because a business can't outgrow the man building that business. Now, here's that final layer that no one is directly putting connection with the monetization problem. Okay. See, monetization requires mental clarity. Did you hear what I said? Monetization requires mental clarity. So if you're struggling to sell, pitch, or confidently invite people into your offers, sometimes it's not the strategy. It's self-belief erosion. Now, some people will disagree, or some people might agree, but I know that early in my journey, I had a buddy. They was underpricing their business, not because they didn't know value, but because internally they questioned it. They really questioned it. And when you question your value, your audience feels it. So do yourself a favor. If you are in this particular mantra, apologize for your offer, over explaining your offer, avoiding the closure in your offer. See, that's not sales tactic issues. That's internal alignment. Now, here's one of those strategies that you got to talk about today's game. Your podcast monetization at the level of your self-convictions. Or should I say, your podcast monetizes at the level of your self-convictions. If you don't believe in your value, you won't invite people to pay you. So here's the move. I need you to write this down. Transformation you provide, the problems that you solve, the results that you create, all three of those, write those down. Revisit them weekly. All right. So you want to write everything that I just said down. So anchor your confidence in evidence. All right. Clarity creates conviction. Conviction creates conversations. Now, that's the magic messaging framework, and that's in real life. The one thing you don't need is you don't need more content when it comes to this. What you need is to understand this. You don't need more content. You need more internal alignment, because a man at peace speaks the power. So when you pay attention to all of your high converting salespeople like a Russell Brunson, a Dean Graziosi, a Tony Robbins, a E.T. Eric Thomas, a David Sands, Pat Flynn, a Zayden Fry. When you see all of these guys, understand they've been there. If you've never paid attention to Russell Brunson's story, Russell Brunson basically told you he was trying to build ClickFunnels. And when he was trying to build ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson was basically telling you this. He was wrestling, he was married, he was broke. He got himself caught up, he spent his money. He was basically spamming people through email, and he got shut down. But then he figured out, he started selling potato guns. He taught you how to sell potato guns, and the rest is history. He still struggled, but the rest is history now. $1 billion industry, revenue out the door, but he struggled. Everyone has struggled. So quit playing the game like you're not struggling. All right. So I just wanted to give you this in the mental aspect of what's going on in life today, because when you have people out here that are suffering in silence, man, you have to look at the warning signs. And again, if you are hearing this, listen, today, even though this podcast is about turning conversations into currency, today it's not about that. Today it's about, if you're struggling with your mental health, there's a mental health crisis help number. I'm going to drop it in the comments, and it's to a company. Maybe they can help you, but you need to reach out to somebody. All right. So again, if this episode hits you, not just intellectually, but personally, here's the next move. We're not even going to promote anything for the business today. We're going to put this mental health number into the description just so you can, if you need to reach out to somebody, do that, man. All right. Again, we're not selling anything. It's all about today. It's all about showing you how inside of your business how things can go. And again, like I said, I struggled with this, so I understand. I struggled with this for years, and it took the unaliving of my father for me to really get to that point that I needed to speak with somebody. Anger was built up in me. I wanted to crash out, as the young ones say. I wanted to crash out bad, man. I really did. Yeah. So again, I'm going to put this number inside of there. And man, listen, that's what this is about, man. We got to start having these conversations. All right. We definitely got to start having these conversations. I will say this, just subscribe to the podcast. If it's your first time, subscribe to the podcast, because you never know. We need to have these conversations periodically throughout. So every episode is just not going to be about business. We got to talk. We got to have these conversations. We got to tap in. All right. So subscribe to the podcast, and then get ready, because I did an interview with a good friend of mine. He's now what I call the pest influencer. He has the best pest funerals I've ever seen on Facebook. All right, we're going to tap in with my guy, Christian Allen, from Telemay Pest Control here in Louisville, Kentucky. And yeah, man, again, prayers go out to that young man's family. Rondell Moore, NFL wide receiver, University of Purdue alum, Trinity High School graduate, resident of New Albany, Indiana, Louisville, Kentucky, friend to many, mentor to most, loved by his family. Prayers to his family. May he rest in peace. Today's episode is based around him, dedicated to those who are struggling. And we'll see y'all soon, man. Thanks for listening. Thanks for taking your time out to understand that this was a message that needed to be held, because we got so many people that are struggling, so many people who are taking their lives, old and young. And we just want to listen, man. I want to listen. Listen to your strengths. Strength is not a silence, man. Success does not protect you from your struggles, and performance does not replace peace. If you're building something big, build it, and build yourself first, man. All right. That's it for me, man. I'm sorry. It's kind of somber today, but that's how it is. All right. My goal right now is to impact a lot of people, not just with income, but to help them get help that they need to get help with. because we're not chasing metrics today. We're not chasing currency. We're chasing survival. What's going on in this world today? We need to chase survival. Now go get help if you need it, and I'll see y'all in the next episode, man. Don't forget, man, this Thursday, 6 a.m., sitting down with the best pest influencer, Christian Allen, TaylorMade Pest Control. Man, thank y'all for stopping by today, man. Peace.
Thanks for tuning in to Podcast for Profit. If you got value today, share this episode with a creator who's ready to level up. And make sure you hit follow so you never miss the moves we're making. If you're serious about turning your podcast into a business, tap the link in the show notes to join the Solo Empire.